John, what is the most impactful Christian book that you've ever read in your life apart from the Bible?
Oh, goodness. Again, my ADHD mind goes crazy. I've read so many wonderful books. Well, strangely enough, a book that I think maybe had more impact on me than any other book apart from the Bible was the original unabridged Les Miserables by the great French Romantic period novelist Victor Hugo. Because I was only a young bloke. I mean, people will find this hard to believe, but my dad, because I was an odd kid and I was pretty lonely, and books became my friends very early, but he got me reading remarkable things very early in life. So, I was only about 10 years of age, 10 or 12, around that period, that he gave me Les Miserables, and it was the unabridged edition. It was a big old copy, like as fat as that. And he knew how to play games with me, and he just said, "Oh, this is a great book, but of course you're too young, you wouldn't be able to read this." And I was insecure as a kid, so the challenge was, "Oh, I'll show him, I will read it to you." And obviously a lot of it I wouldn't have understood. I remember there's one chapter somewhere in it, because I haven't read it since I was a kid, but I could go for hours talking about different scenes in it. I've never forgotten. And, I'm 76 soon. And I can still remember it all. And I never read it a second time. I have admittedly seen 2 or 3 films, but some of the stuff I remember isn't even any of those films or live productions. But what it did for me, there were 2 issues. One was the famous story of the Bishop's Candlesticks, where Jean Valjean, brutally imprisoned in hard labour for stealing a loaf of bread because he was tired of listening to his sister's little children crying of hunger. And so he copped this terrible sentence. I think it was 7 years. And then the brutality of that brutalised him, and he eventually ended up with his sentence doubled. And so, a great chunk of his youthful and adult life was spent in hard labour in prison. When he's released, he has certain legal requirements, and one of them he doesn't fulfil, like reporting to the police station kind of thing, like we have in modern times. He doesn't do it. And so he's now a fugitive again, and there is a very legalistic cop called Javert. And Javert was the son, if I remember rightly, of a prostitute. And he was vicious and angry about his own roots. And he took that out by becoming a lawman with a hateful soul that just wanted to grind any criminal he could get. And he's out to get Jean Valjean because he knows on a minor infringement he can put him back. And Jean Valjean, on a wet, horrible night, calls in at a bishop's residence, and the dear old bishop is a man that really follows Jesus. And he takes Jean Valjean in, feeds him at the table with beautiful lace tablecloth, silverware, stuff this man has never seen in his life, and gives him a bed with clean sheets. And he's stunned, but as he lies in that bed, he's torn between the compassion he sees in this dear old priest and the fact that the house is full of stuff that he could steal and make money out of for his own survival. Make a long story short, temptation gets him, and he gets a whole lot of the silverware, genuine silverware, so it's expensive stuff, and puts it in a sack and takes off. Now, the dear old priest, he guesses what's happened, and he's been praying during the night, guessing what temptation would be on this man. The cops catch him, and they drag him to the rectory because the imprint of the bishop's on the silverware. And as they bring him to the door, the old bishop guesses what's happened. And they come and they say, you know, your worship or whatever his title was, we found this wretch and he's got your silverware. And the old bishop looks at Jean Valjean and says, oh, Jean, you forgot to take the candlesticks. And the cops are totally confused. You mean he's telling the truth, that you gave him the silverware? And so it's a little bit of a white lie almost. And Jean Valjean is released. He goes down on his knees and is converted, truly converted in this story to Christian faith, which transforms his life. And for anyone that wants to read the book, it's far more than any of the plays or the films. He becomes a man totally committed to mercy towards broken people rather than bitterness in reaction to the brutality that the system had cast upon him. Now, what happened to me in that
Hank?
Was that two things were imprinted in my young mind before teenage years. One is grace and mercy, and the other one is a commitment to the poor and to those who are oppressed by the system. And anyone that knows my life, those two things have been primary.
Yep.
The grace of God, as that lovely song we all sing and don't understand, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. That was imprinted. And even though I went through a brief period of atheism, lost my faith for a while, the story of Jean Valjean and Javert representing legalistic religion and legalism and judgment, and the opposite in the Psalms, that mercy triumphs over judgment. That shaped really my life and career. It's why I didn't take the course when they told me in school in final years that I was best suited to be a lawyer. I think I would have been a good lawyer, actually, and I probably would have been quite wealthy now, which I'm not. But I'm so glad that that book led me, I guess, later on, even more so to Jesus, because that's the inspiration of the life of the transformation of Jean Valjean.